Hey. So I have a super interesting guest and super selfishly an interesting guest for myself because I'm trying to learn everything about funnel-led marketing. And I have one of the go-to people from that community here today. Finn, super happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, I need you to brag a bit about yourself. Like, why should everybody here listen to you in terms of learning about funnel-led marketing from you? You need to be braggy here.
So I'm German, so it's really, really difficult for a German to brag. Let's see. I mean, I grew my own LinkedIn from 0 to 34,000 followers, something like that. I run a company. We're 10 people that essentially help SaaS founders implement founder-led marketing. And I would say, my own experience, we're in the trenches. I'm doing what we're preaching. We're getting all of our customers essentially through LinkedIn, through content, through my own podcast that I run. So, we eat our own dog food. But I would say beyond that, I've had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing some of the best people at this, people that I learned from, people like Chris Walker and Adam Robinson and Dave Gerhardt and Galaga and some of the people who are, way better at this stuff than I am. I've had them all on my podcast. So I feel like, besides my own experience, I've also been able to really assimilate some of the best playbooks in the space by the people in the trenches.
Let's assume you're a founder, like a SaaS founder that freshly started their company this year. It's 2025 and they believe in the whole funnel-led marketing thesis because they saw people like Dave Gerhardt, like Adam Robinson and so on. And they want to get from 0 to 10K followers as fast as possible. What's the 20% most important things that they need to do to cover 80% of their bases?
So first of all, I think it's important, and I know that you mean it, but it's 10,000 relevant followers, because there's probably faster ways to get 10,000 followers in whatever way, if you don't care about who that follower is. But let's say you are a SaaS founder and you sell a software and you want to build an audience of relevant people who could actually buy your product and use your product. Then I would say a couple of things. One, I would be very, very clear on who those people are, defining them, right? It can't be marketing people. It can't be, I don't know, people at B2B companies or whatever, right? It needs to be clearly defined. And maybe they are early stage SaaS founders. Maybe they are heads of marketing at B2B SaaS companies. Maybe they are, COOs at enterprise companies. But be pretty specific about who that person is that you're trying to attract. And generally that means your ICP, the person who uses your product, right? Once you have that, I would say, and I'm borrowing this concept from both Devin Reed and Dave Gerhardt talks about, is ask yourself, what thing would it be valuable for me to be known as? So it's almost like picking your one word, your lane, like what's the theme of what you're going to be talking about, right? And so that needs to be kind of like a combination between, obviously it needs to be a topic that your ICPs care about, right? So if you talk to SaaS founders, what things do they care about? What are they interested in? But it also needs to tie into whatever your product is about. So if you're selling a, founder-led marketing software, then it probably needs to be founder-led marketing or LinkedIn or content creation that you want to be known for. If you sell an HR software, then you probably want to be known for HR, right? Like because that will attract a relevant audience who actually care about this topic, and they will associate you with expertise and authority in that field, which will make it a lot easier for you to sell your product. And then lastly, it ideally should be something that you actually have expertise in, because otherwise you'll have a hard time talking about that, right? So like you need that overlapping of, I would say, 3 circles. Like it needs to tie into what your product is about, needs to be interesting and relevant to your ICP, and then you can actually speak to that. So whatever that thing is, for me, that's founder-led marketing, right? That's what we do. That's what I have experience in. And that's what founders will find value from and are interested in. They're interested in growing their company, et cetera, right? Now you talk about that topic. Now I would say for 10,000 followers, you need to buckle in for a long ride. I've known people who, There's people who got to 10,000 followers in 2 or 3 months, but that is the far, far exception. I think in general, you want to think about this as a 12-month journey at least. If you're not willing to do this, then you will probably not be successful. And I can give lots of examples of companies who are now people who are now very big that took a long time to get to this point. And then, so let's say you have those things. I would say the activities to focus on is 1, publishing content about that lane, that topic, that theme that you just defined. 2 posts per week at least, maybe daily, depends on, but give yourself set a number. Don't say, oh, I'm going to see how many I get out, kind of depending on how I feel. Give yourself a number. Every week you need to publish 2 things. Every week you need to publish 5 things. You pick the number, but pick a number. Block time to write content. So I think there's 2 ways to get there. There's either you write it all yourself, you as the founder, you sit down and you just write and you block off time for that. I know some people who block off, 1 day a week, they block off a bunch of hours and they write their 2 or 3 or 5 posts in 1 day, right? Galaga, who is, in my opinion, one of the best at this game right now, he blocks off 6 to 8 hours every single Sunday. And he writes 2 to 3 LinkedIn posts in that time. And then he schedules them out for the next week and he repeats it. I know some people like Chris Walker, they do that first thing in the morning, right? They sit down for usually anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes every morning. They have it blocked in their calendar and they just write their piece of content in that time. Yes, you can listen to some podcasts like maybe mine or maybe yours or, buy Justin Welsh's course. There's frameworks around hooks and how to structure posts and all that. You'll find that information pretty easily. I think you'll learn that anyway as you do it. So I would just focus on getting into the habit of actually pushing content. That's one lane. The other approach would be to have someone interview you and get help in terms of structuring, creating the content. That's what we do for customers, right? We work generally with technical founders who are not very good at this whole marketing content game. They struggle a lot with it. And so we just have a weekly recurring call with them. We ask them a bunch of questions about what they're doing, what they're seeing in the market, trends, what updates they're making to the product. And then from that interview, we create bite-sized videos and text posts, and then they edit it and make their changes, right? That's another way to kind of keep the cadence going, right? You just need to figure out a way to keep yourself accountable to just keep it going. The other activities are connect with relevant people, right? Whoever your ICP is, find them on LinkedIn and send anywhere between 5 to 20 connection requests every single day to those people. You can automate it. There's a million tools that automate it, or you can do it by hand. That just makes sure that if you're starting from literally nothing, no followers, that just every week you're adding relevant people who will then start seeing your content. And then the third big bucket I would say that's super important is to engage. So what we tell customers to do is go on Sales Navigator, build 2 lead lists on Sales Navigator, one called ICPs, one called thought leaders. ICPs, you add anyone who might potentially buy your product. Thought leaders, you'll add anyone who's in your space, in your realm of the topics that you talk about and who is already creating content, who already has an audience. So for us, with Founder-led Marketing, it's Dave Gerhardt and Adam Robinson, and who is already talking about personal branding, LinkedIn, content creation, the kind of adjacent topics, let's say. And then you, the more the better. I would say minimum 5 comments per day. So every day with that list, you pick 5 posts and you write 5 thoughtful comments on those people's posts. And thoughtful comment means not a thank you for sharing, cool insight type of comment. It's a real thought. I think there's essentially 3 ways that you can think about how to respond to someone else's post. You can either ask a follow-up question based on what they said. You can generally agree with what they said and add on to it. So expand on what they said, or generally disagree with what they said and explain why, right? Just do one of those 3 things on 5 posts every single day on that list of people. If you can do 10 or 20, even better, but 5 is probably a good starting point. And then you're off to the races, I think. And then just close your eyes for 6 to 12 months. As you're building an intuition, like I think you need to have some sort of feedback loop. That's very important. So if you're doing it yourself, you have that automatically, right? You're hitting publish, you're on LinkedIn, you're seeing the people that you're commenting on, you're scrolling your feed a little bit, you're seeing what other people are posting, you're getting a sense of what's performing, what's not. Maybe you use an analytics tool like Shield or something else where you can like filter your posts and see what's doing better than others. But like you need to get a sense of like what's working. And founders get this very easily because they've done this for many things across the company. If you hire an agency or a ghostwriter or someone like that, or you have your in-house marketing team do it for you, you cannot skip over this step. So you can get help with someone helping you create the content. You can get help with someone streamlining certain parts of the process, but you still need to be involved enough so that you have that finger on the pulse. What definitely doesn't work is that you just say, hey, marketing agency or ghostwriter, like write these posts for me, schedule them out. I'm not going to open my LinkedIn and just take care of it. Will never work. And then, I mean, you could get a little formalized with that of just posting for 3 months, then use a tool to filter by your best performing ones in terms of impressions. Look at the top 10%. And then just see patterns, like what do my top 10 posts, and maybe your top 10 posts only got 30 likes, but the other ones got 10 likes. So, what's going on with these posts that got 10 likes? And you'll see patterns. And then that can inform you what topics resonate, what people want you to talk about, what people are interested in, etc. Sorry, I rambled a lot. So
no, it's perfect. And I mean, on that, would you try a bunch of stuff in the beginning, meaning all kinds of different formats, all kinds of different topics for that one ICP? I mean, topics still related to a product, of course, so that you have like basically throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, or like what's the method behind the madness in those first 3 months, basically?
Yeah, I mean, one, it depends on how far along you are with the company, right? Like if you are still building the product and you're not exactly sure who it's for and who will use it, and you don't know exactly like how people will use the product and what they will like most about it, and maybe you're new to the space and you were in e-commerce and now you started an AI company 6 months ago because you were excited about what AI can do, but you have no real background in AI, like you'll have a tough time, like because you just need to make some educated guesses on what might be interesting to people, and then you just need to test that messaging and see what resonates. If you're a company that's already doing 7 million in revenue and you have a very clearly defined ICP and you know what your product is and who wants it and who needs it and why and how they use it, and you have case studies and customer testimonials, and you've been in this industry for 10 years, and like it's kind of obvious what you should be talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on that. I think in terms of format, you definitely need to experiment. I would say what I've heard a couple times now is essentially like pick your favorite creator, like the one that resonates with you, that you follow, whose content you love, and copy them. Like copy their style. Maybe they're doing videos, so go ahead and do videos. Maybe they're doing these cool graphics, so figure out how to do graphics. Maybe they have these super long and in-depth posts with like a super structured hook and different sections. Try to write a post that looks like that. Maybe they just have this like meme content with a super pithy short one-liner. Like emulate those people because clearly that resonates with you. So that's probably the best starting point to finding your own style. And then as you're doing things and as you're experimenting and just seeing what resonates, then you will slowly find your own style, which will be maybe an iteration on that, but yeah.
You mentioned something super important in the beginning, that it's not about having 10K followers, but having 10,000 relevant followers.
Yeah.
How would you make sure to not fall into the trap of chasing impressions? Because I think especially as founders, we like numbers going up to the right. So how would you make how would you make sure to not fall in that trap, and B, assuming it's not the founder but like a content marketer or a head of content, doing that, how would you measure the ROI of this activity or making sure there's business impact?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. One, I think there's no easy fix because dopamine is a real thing and it's a drug, and these platforms are engineered to, tickle your dopamine. So I definitely go down that route sometimes where I get upset when a post only gets whatever 30 likes, and I sit there and I'm a little upset for a couple minutes. I think one, it's to remember why you're doing it. Are you doing it because you want to get LinkedIn famous and, get millions of impressions, or are you doing it because you want to drive business for your company? The second thing is you should set yourself guardrails, like likes and comments and how many impressions a post get can be super useful information if you have guardrails. So if you say, I'm going to post, but it needs to be relevant to head of HR. And then, if you stick to that, and then one post get 10,000 impressions, the other one only 2,000, that's real information. But if you say, I just care about more impressions, and so you post some like made up story about this, I don't know, homeless person you found on the street, and then you hired them and now they're the COO of your company, and that post blows up and gets 1 million impressions, unless you have that guardrail, you might say, oh, let me only post these made up stories, right? When in reality, if you look at it, that's probably not helping your company at all, and it's probably hurting your company in some way, right? So set guardrails, and then I think that's again why it matters that the founder has a pulse on things, because it will take a long time until it becomes obvious that this is working. And in the beginning, all you get is some anecdotal hints that this is going in the right direction, like the right kind of person writing a comment under your post, right? The right kind of person like sending you a DM and asking your opinion about something. You go into a conference or a trade show and someone mentions like, hey, like, I think I saw your content, right? Or like a prospect on a call mentioning, hey, like that post you did, I sent it to my head of HR or whatever, right? Like there's no proof that this LinkedIn post generated an enterprise customer. And so if you don't have a pulse on that and you just look at some dashboard you have, it will not show up on that dashboard. Now, eventually it should show up in a dashboard in some way, not perfectly, not fully. One way to do that is probably the best and simplest way is just self-reported attribution, right? So just asking a prospect when they come, when you have a conversation with them, how they heard about you. And that can be either on the demo form that they fill out to book a call or on the actual sales call where that person then asks them, how did you hear about us? And if this thing is working, after you've given it plenty of time, people will mention, saw you on LinkedIn, heard your podcast, someone sent you an episode, someone shared your LinkedIn post in our company Slack channel, like stuff like that will show up. But it might take 6 or 12 months until these things really show up. And before that, it's like anecdotal and qualitative.
One thing I'm curious about is...
one more addition. I would say, and this kind of comes back to the guardrails, and it does take discipline because, again, dopamine is a drug. I would much rather have 10 likes on a post, but 7 out of those are like our ICP, than have 50 likes, but it's just like random people, like this consultant, that coach, a bunch of people from our own team, right? So relevance.
Yeah, love that. And one hack I found is also, at least if you're in premium, you can see who visited your profile and just check, are the right people visiting your profile? Because we all just scroll, and if we see something interesting, we check out the person. So I think that's a cool hack I found to see if I'm hitting like the right people, basically.
So I have one more addition, and this is almost like an addition to your very first question of when someone's trying to go from 0 to 10K followers, what should they do? I think one super crucial piece that almost no one does is to not just rely on this, meaning LinkedIn content, funnel-led marketing, however you see it, as an inbound marketing activity, meaning, hey, I just want to put out content and then wait and hope that someone comes to us and books a call. And instead use this as a way to get signals of who to reach out to. And one of the recurring themes that I hear on my own podcast when I interview people who are now big thought leaders on LinkedIn, people like Emir Adli, who's the co-founder and CRO at Hockey Stack. For the first, I think he said 4 to 6 months, no one cared when he started posting. He got about 10 likes per post. Most founders would already have stopped there, right? But what he did is anytime, instead of getting discouraged that he's only getting 10 likes, what he did is every time he got 10 likes, he would look at who those 10 people are, go to their profile, check them out, and if they looked like a relevant person who might could be able to buy the product, he just reached out to them, sent them a connection request and said, hey, saw you on my post, thank you for engaging. And then what he did initially, he said like, hey, we're building this product. They were also still pre-launch. Would you be open to a 15-minute call and give me feedback on what we're building here? And obviously tons of people said, sure, I'm open to give you feedback. And so he hopped on dozens and dozens and dozens of these calls, got tons of qualitative feedback on his product, and got his first 10 customers before he even launched, right? Because a bunch of people were obviously like, a few of them were like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, can I get this right now? Right. And so we're right now building a tool internally that we're rolling out to customers right now that essentially streamlines this, right? So you can flag who engage, qualify them, score them, and then run some outbound to those people. But I think that's how you make it worth it, especially in the beginning, and it only becomes more powerful as you get more reach.
Love that. I mean, especially as an earlier stage founder, I think that's super valuable because it's funnel-led sales in the beginning anyway. I would love to switch gears a bit. Could you do screen share of just like maybe your best performing posts of the last couple months or maybe even year, and then dissect for me why the posts went well compared to posts that did not go well?
Do you see this?
Yes.
Cool. So these are all of my posts since I started posting.
That's a while.
8.1 million impressions. I get insecure about this because I know people who do this in a year, and I know people who get 10 million impressions in 1 year. I know people who got 20 million impressions in a year. Matter of fact, I know people who got more than 20 million impressions with one LinkedIn post.
How? That seems undoable.
Tom Hunt was on the podcast. His best LinkedIn post had 26 million impressions. Yeah. So anyway, this is what I was able to do since 2019. If you can actually see, quite steady, right? Like no hockey stick stuff. So
it's just one thing for the 3 people on the audio feed. It's linear, steady growth. So just consistency over consistency over consistency.
You can see here like some bumps, right? Like here.
Yeah.
These were the viral posts. Like, I don't know what was my most viral post. Let's see. By impressions. So the most impressions I ever got on a post was 450,000, 315,000, 266, 200,000, right? So they obviously felt super viral to me at the time I posted. But when you zoom out, they kind of, they're like little bumps on the road. They're not that crazy anymore. I think let me focus on since 2024, because that's when I started focusing a lot more kind of my content strategy. Before that, it was a lot of meandering. So let's do from January 2024. Why are you doing this? To today, February 17th. 1.7 million impressions. I posted 195 posts in that period. So my best post was this one in terms of impressions. 200,000.
Also interesting that the top 2 are both talk to a SaaS founder. Is that
no, they're the same post. They're the same. This is a reshare.
No way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, 9 months ago, Hook is talk to a SaaS founder yesterday who scaled from 0 to 700K ARR since January. Yes, in 4 months. Here are the 2 brilliant go-to-market plays they're currently running, some context on what they're building, and then the 2 go-to-market motions that they're running. 1,000 likes. Why do I think this post did well?
Yeah, I would love for you to literally dissect it. I mean, like, tell me about like how you structured that hook and why, how you structured that post and why. Let's break it down and make it actionable for the people that like like me, are still a bit clueless on like how to do it properly, so that we
Yep.
know why we see what we see going viral, basically.
Yeah. So first of all, it's true. Like I actually had this person. I had a call with this person. They're now a customer. And so I think the first reason why it works is because this is a crazy outcome. You know, going from 0 to 700,000 in annual revenue in just 4 months, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of SaaS founders, who's our ICP, our audience, care about, right? So just by the definition of what this accomplishment is, it piqued a lot of interest. Now, I think the other thing that I did well here is that I have a cliffhanger in here, because obviously what people see in their feed are only the first 2 or 3 lines of text, right? And then it says see more. And so having right now the second sentence here, or the 2 brilliant go-to-market plays they're currently running, gives them a teaser of what they're going to get by clicking on it, right? So big outcome, cliffhanger or teaser here. Some context I think is important for place people in terms of who their ICP is, what their ACV
the
is.
content. Quick question on the context. This is basically just telling the reader, hey, that person that I'm talking about in this case study is similar to you, so you should care. Is that basically what the context is doing?
Yeah. And I would say in general what works is like specificity, right? Like, I mean, like we learn from examples, we learn from real cases. So you don't want to stay super high level where it's just like, I talked to this company and they did outbound and they did it really well. It's like, I don't learn anything from this.
Yeah.
Like, give me the specific tools, the specific campaigns, the specific message, the specific ICP that we're selling to, and then I might learn something here. I think a little detail here, what I do often, and I learned this from people like Adam Robinson, is usually what people would do is maybe they have a hook like this, and then this sentence would be essentially this sentence. And so they would say, here's, you know, a little bit more about this conversation. The problem with that is that that's a way less strong cliffhanger to have in the hook, right? Like, I'm not here for the context. I'm here for getting the download of what they did to do this, right? But not doing this would also hurt the post. So you kind of, you have the hook here, the main cliffhanger of what they're going to get. And then you kind of swooping in here just a little bit, squeeze in that context, and then you go to the actual meat right here. I think the other reason why this post works is because the 2 things that they're doing are actually interesting and actually unique. You know, if I would have said, if this would have been in here, the 2 brilliant go-to-market plays they're running, and then it's like they send cold emails.
Yeah, cold emails and Google Ads.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Unless they're doing something super interesting with their cold emails in terms of when they're sending it, how they're sending it, the type of message that they send, and it stands out. It's just like, okay, so they just got lucky, I guess. And by the way, the reason why I knew I needed to make a post about this, because I was on that call with the founder and he was telling me about this, and my mouth was opened. Like, I was just like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And he showed me some of these things, and I was just like mind blown, right? And so when I talk to a ton of founders about their go-to-market, and so when I have a reaction like that, when a founder shows me what they're doing, it probably means there's something there, right? So like, I essentially wrote it up right after that call. Second post here is essentially the exact same post. I reposted it 6 months later. I just updated the hook. Talked to a SaaS founder who scaled from 0 to 1.6 million ARR since January. Yes, in 9 months. Here, the 2 brilliant, because I know this founder and they
you got the updated numbers basically.
Yeah, I just updated the numbers. Otherwise, the rest is the same.
Yeah.
And you know, it's my second best post. But so you definitely should repurpose your best posts.
Yeah.
No reason not to do this. This is my 3rd best post for the year. We got 77,000 impressions, 300 likes, 117 comments. hook is, if I was CMO at a B2B SaaS doing 1 to 10 million ARR tasked with replicating the Chris Walker, Adam Robinson playbook for my founder CEO, here's how I'd go about it, and then kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think
so very strong hook, and then in a way listicle.
Yep. So I think the playbook is, it's very simple. Define your ICP, figure out what they care about, like high level, what are their top priorities, top problems, biggest pain points, biggest desires right now. Not like a sub thought that they spend 2 minutes on per month, but like what's like a core thing that's on their OKRs for this quarter. Like they need to do this. Whatever that is, provide a solution to it. And ideally, as specific and as complete of a solution as you can give, right? And so I have a very clearly defined person here. It's a CMO at a B2B SaaS doing anywhere between 1 to 10 million ARR, right? Super, super specific. I know the memo that a lot of these heads of marketing people got was like, we need to do what Adam Robinson is doing, right? FOMO, holy shit, they're scaling so fast. We need to do this. So like replicating the Adam Robinson playbook for their founder or CEO is one of their core top priorities for the month, for the quarter.
Yep.
And then I'm just providing as complete of a solution as I can in steps, giving specifics, linking the exact tools that I would be using, right? Like the more specific and the more complete, the better. And these are the types of posts that get shared in internal Slack channels. It definitely was helpful that Adam Robinson commented here, obviously. So there is a luck element involved here too. I'm sure if Adam hadn't commented on this, I don't know, maybe he would have gotten half the impressions or something like that.
But I mean, even that is a good hack. If I, for example, when I know someone is like an acquaintance of mine, and then I will tag them because I think there's a high likelihood of them like liking and commenting. If it's like a person that has no clue who I am, I'm just an observer, I love them, then I don't even tag them because I think it might even be hurting instead of helping.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now I think what is a point that I'll make here for the audience is that, this first post that we looked at that got 200,000 impressions versus this post we just looked at that had 75,000 impressions. This one, the one with less impressions, did way more for us in terms of inbound. Like I booked 10 demos off of this one LinkedIn post, like organically, like people who just saw it, went to our website, filled in the form and booked a demo on our website. This one, I'm not sure, maybe 1 or 2, maybe it helped build awareness. I definitely got a lot of followers from that. That was nice. But in terms of direct requests and inbound, this one performed a lot better. Yes.
On that, do you believe, I see a lot of people on LinkedIn talking about, hey, basically you can use LinkedIn as like the typical marketing funnel. You do your top of funnel content, middle of funnel content, bottom of the funnel content.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that? And because I'm just curious about that. The reason why I'm curious is because it feels like every post kind of needs to stand on their own feet, basically, because not all of your followers see your stuff. So like, how do you see the whole like funnel thingy on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I don't know. It never felt super useful to me, that concept. I think there is definitely value, and maybe people just need that concept to justify it to themselves, to post, for example, product content. Like if you have a product, just give me a demo, like show me what you can do, and try to, again, I think what's definitely a great principle to have is create every post for a cold audience. Like don't assume that people already know you are off context about what they're gonna see, right? If you're gonna demo your product,
meaning the people have no clue who you are, basically.
Exactly. Like assume some random person who have never heard of Nicholas or Social Kid. They have seen 0 of your previous posts. They have listened to 0 of your podcasts. Like they need to get what you're doing here.
which, by the way, is not only a thing for like small creators. I even saw a video of Alex Hormozi talking about
He does
how he does
time.
his YouTube,
Yes.
and he has millions of people, hundreds of thousands or millions of views per video, and he still uses that concept.
Yes, every video he starts with why people should pay attention to him, which is, I built this company, I made this much money, I have a portfolio that does over 100 million, right? Like, we all know this, we've heard it a million times, but that's because he understands that he's creating it for the cold audience. Because for us, it's no big deal. We just listen to that 5-second bit one more time, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
So, right, if you're demoing like a product, or you like demo your product, right? Like, this is who it's for. If you're dealing with this, here's how it works. Demo a complete use case of how someone can do it. That post will probably not get a ton of engagement. But I think it's super valuable to do. And I know a bunch of founders who basically tell me like, hey, I create this like top level building in public content, right? Where I'm like, founder story, when we started it, we were in our basement and now we have an office with 50 people. Like, that gets a ton of engagement. But that's very kind of all over the place in terms of who engages with it, right? It's like random people, young people who are thinking about starting a company, other founders who are building their own thing. Like, the thing that their book demos off of is when they do a video of just like showcasing the product, what it can do if you have a strong product, right? But if you only look at your likes, you'll be like, I should never talk about my product and only do these high-level founder stories. But again, what are we doing this for? And it's to drive business outcomes, right? And so is it maybe good to have a mix of them? So let one, I don't know. Like, I think, like I was thinking about this recently, like what I should do if I would really take my LinkedIn seriously is we have a tight ICP, SaaS founders, more on the early stage, early scale phase. Write down all the top priorities that they have. They need to scale, they need to grow ARR, they need to reduce CAC, they need to hire great talent, they need to, figure out how to, use AI and build a moat for their product. They want to build brand, they want to become the number one in their category. Like, what are the things that's top of mind to them? They want to crush their competitors, right? Like, what keeps them up at night? List them all down, then pick those that have some relevance to what we do, which is founder-led marketing, right? On the kind of how to build a product and how to integrate AI into your product has nothing to do with founder-led marketing. Maybe like a little bit on like the feedback that you might get on social right? Like, but how to grow ARR, how to get more profitable, how to build a brand mode, how to become the category leader, how to reduce customer acquisition costs. Like, for all of those things, founder-led marketing plays into those. So pick all of those and then essentially block off time for me to think through of what I would do to address this that ties in founder-led marketing, right? If it's like they need to double ARR this month, right? Tie it into how, you need to build awareness for that and also build trust if you're selling. And for that, you need to be out on social because that's where your buyers are. And so therefore, you need to have this motion where someone interviews you and turns that into content and use that on LinkedIn. And then you run ads on the back end, use signal-based outbound to like reach out to people who engage, right? Document all that. Okay, that's post one. Second one, they need to hire great talent that, is aligned with their company values, right? Same thing, You need to talk about your company values and principles in public so that you attract people who vibe with that. You do that through content. Here's a way to do this. Here's a couple frameworks. Here's some post examples of what you could use and how to talk about your company. Here's how often I would post about it. Here's how I would analyze. Like, again, provide a complete solution and post that. And I think that's the direct response framework. And I think that's what I should do. The problem with that is that, like, I actually need to sit down and think this through, right? This is not a quick, like, you ask me one quick question and I give you a quick answer and I have something top of my head. Like, I actually need to sit down with this problem that they have and workshop it and do some research and look into what they're currently doing. And, but I think if I would just do that 3 times a week, I think that's probably the best thing I can do. So maybe I'll prioritize it, but it's even when you understand this game, it's still because there's also risk associated. Like, this will probably take me 2 or 3 hours per post. Like, 2 or 3 hours is a lot of, like, this post that I just showed you that drove 10 organic Inbound, like that was probably 2 hours of me writing that thing. Because it's not just coming up with the idea, it's also like, what are the steps and in which order? And then you have a thing that's like 7,000 characters and you need to condense it down into 3,000 characters. So you need to like really think about like, what's the essence? What are the things that are the most important things? Well, I cut out all the rest. How can I shorten and condense this? How can I polish? How do I structure? Like, you spend a lot of time on this thing. And then if you know it's going to get 75,000 impressions and 10 inbound demos, no problem. But you don't know that up front, right? It might just get 10 likes and nothing. And so then you're like, no, I can just pull one of my podcast clips where I had, Wes Bush on and he gave me a cool answer. So I'll just post that. I can write that up in 10, 15 minutes. So,
It's the hard work like everything else. I have one challenging question for you, which is you were not a SaaS founder that had a big exit. You weren't a VP marketing at Drift or whatever, like Dave Gerhardt.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that challenge of not inherently having the authority to speak of that topic? Because yes, I bet you were amazing at LinkedIn even before you started talking specifically about like Funnel for SaaS founders. But I and the reason why I would love to dig into that is because the pattern I saw between like an Adam Robinson, Dave Gerhardt, Chris Walker, Galaga, is that I had that thing in the back of my mind that was like, fuck, I bootstrapped my company. My last company, I had no exit. I have like no stamp of approval. So even if I create something amazing, I wouldn't even trust myself if I read that. So how did you overcome that for the founders that that don't have that stamp of approval yet?
Yeah. I don't think there's a perfect solution. I think, first of all, it's definitely beneficial if you've been, let's say, in the industry for 10 years, you've accomplished some incredible things, you've built a big company with a lot of employees and you're making millions every year. That helps. But then this thing is, if you don't have that, what are you going to do? It's not like you can change it. So you can just keep sitting on the sidelines and being like, well, I'll just wait until I made 20 million. But and I know lots of founders who've made this successful even before they were well-known or made a lot of revenue, right? So it's kind of like, what else are you going to do? I think the other things is, first of all, a couple things. So one, if you don't know the thing, right? If you want to talk about email marketing because you're building an email marketing software, but you have no clue about email marketing, that's a problem, right? So maybe you could start getting into it and actually run the email marketing newsletter for your own email marketing software and share your lessons. And maybe the lesson is just, I started at 0 subscribers. Now 2 months later, I'm at 100 subscribers, which is laughable, right? But here's the 17 mistakes I made in those first 6 months. That's probably useful to a lot of people, right? You can borrow expertise from other people. That's partly what I do with my podcast, right? You can just have a podcast where you interview the best people in email marketing and you ask them how they're doing it, why they're doing it, strategies, tips, tricks, and then you become the curator and the assimilator of that information, right? Where you say, and I do these posts where I said, I talked to Gal Aga about his LinkedIn approach, and here's the 7 things that stood out most to me about his strategy, right? That still attracts people and it's still through association builds up your authority. Maybe you can just create this building in public content, right? And not talk about email marketing if you've never done email marketing, and you just talk about how you build your company, the team that you hire. And then I think, that's why real experiences are usually more powerful than like a high level opinion, right? Like, for example, if you see a post on your LinkedIn feed by someone you've never heard of, and the hook is, here's how you should run your cold calls. Your immediate reaction is, who the fuck are you to tell me? I don't know you. Like, why should I care about your opinion on how I should do my cold calls? Right. And so maybe then you're going to check out their LinkedIn profile and then depending on what you probably just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
But you might check out their LinkedIn profile to kind of see if they are worth paying attention to. And then maybe you'll see that, oh, they won this award and they have 100,000 followers and they're running the #1 cold calling company. And like this super well-known person that said this super amazing thing about them, then you might be like, oh, okay, I just didn't know about them, but they're actually legit, so let me see what they said. But if you see that, oh, they have 1,000 followers, and then you're not going to pay attention. But if the hook is, instead of saying, here's how you should do your cold calls, the hook instead says, in the last 7 days, I did 1,000 cold calls. 30% of people picked up the phone, and I booked over 100 meetings. And here's my 7-step process. And then you open up the post, and there's actually 7 steps in there. And there's, then it's like, I don't need to know who you are, because clearly you did something and you have some proof to show for it. And so I'm going to learn from this.
Was a pleasure to chat, man.
Super fun.
Thanks
man.
a ton.